Alright. So this is something I've been wanting to do for a while. It goes with my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cider series, basically. It's the whole idea of like giving tips and hints on side decking, but also on just, you know, main decking stuff that, or just using what's already in your deck, which already is mained, and use it skillfully in a way and strategically in a way where it's almost like if you side deck them, you know what I mean? Because you know, it's just a skill. I don't side in cards, I side in experience, because I already have cards in my deck that can do stuff. It's just how I use it that determines the effectiveness of the cards, you know, the effectiveness of my ability to beat certain decks. This video will be about how to defeat artifact deck, you know, some ideas, some tips on how to beat them. So let's get into it. Alright, so obviously, you know, we got the new beautiful archetype artifacts. So you got all of them, nice, pretty. Alright, so they have some interesting effects, of course. They have defensive effects. They have monster destruction. They have back row destruction. Ironically, it pops your back row. You also have monster. You have the ability to recoup monsters from the graveyard, so on and so on. And then you got the rando, which is awesome. The ability to turn Dark Hole into an MST. That is just so disrespectfully powerful. Alright, so, alright. Obviously, one of the strengths of the artifact deck is they take advantage of destruction. So when you set the artifacts as back row and they get destroyed, you get their effects during your opponent's turn, right? If they're destroyed during your turn, you really don't get no effect. The only effect you can get that would be Labrys, because he can be summoned from your hand when an artifact card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard. So he can be summoned from the hand during either player's turn when that condition is met. So he's pretty much the only one you could just play without having to set. What the other ones you have to set them and get them destroyed and get their effects off. Alright, you see Timidity. Neither player can destroy set, spell, and trap cards on the field until your opponent's next end phase. The artifact monsters are treated as face down spell cards. So Timidity would be a good way to prevent your opponent from being able to use Malevolent Catastrophe, for example, to activate their effects, Absorb Jar, you know, to destroy. You get the idea. The idea is to prevent the destruction of the artifact monsters, so that way they don't get their effects. So that way they're just useless back row, you know, they're just there as bait, right? And then you can just plow through with all your monsters and win the game. So this is a good card that, you know, is old school, and then now it has some use if you want to use it. It's not perfect. If it was a quick play, it obviously would be more proficient because you'll declare an attack. Your opponent will activate Malevolent Catastrophe. You'll chain this, and then that will prevent him being able to destroy his back row with Malevolent Catastrophe and get his artifacts effects. But it's not a quick play. If they ever decide to make an updated version that's quick play, you know, then yeah, you can use a quick play version. But this is just a normal spell version, which means they can chain their spell and traps, their double cyclone, whatever. Especially if they can chain their double cyclone to Timidity by targeting Timidity as a target for double cyclone and one of their cards in back row, and just, you know, set up some type of defense, or do the whole thing of summoning their monster destroyer, which is Morale Tech. But again, you know, one of the weaknesses of the deck is, you know, they can't do their effects during their turn. So if you destroy their back row during their turn, you know, their artifact monsters, for example, then, you know, that's pretty much how you could beat them. That's the most common way of beating them. So pretty much everyone does play MST. Everyone has MST. So MST would be the most common way you will, you know, pick at your opponent's back row to slow him down, prevent him from being able to do his effects on your turn. Regeki Break, same thing. You could just pop their back row. That would prevent them from being able to have their monster destroyed during your turn in order to get their effects. Bait, though, is just a good way of telling which one is and isn't a trap. Like, that way you know which one's an artifact monster and which one's not, because you know whatever else is on the field, it's more likely just something pretty basic, like maybe a boundless or something. It's nothing too much of a threat at the time, especially when you have monsters that are unaffected by boundless. Not a big deal, right? So then you just want to focus on the artifact monsters. Make sure that you know which one's which, because you don't necessarily have to destroy them. You just don't want them to get destroyed. The idea is to prevent them from being destroyed, and you kind of want them there to be useless, taking up back row space and your opponent's back row space, and be able to take advantage of that, like make it useless for them to. That way you can just make the back row useless. That's the idea. Make the back row useless and just keep attacking for game. See, I play basically, I play MST, Beito, and Regeki Break, and pretty much every one of my decks. So I already made, my solutions for the artifact deck. When I play my assault mode deck, obviously I have assault mode that will help me negate double cyclones, the spells and traps that go with the artifact deck, Malevolent Catastrophe, Absorb Jar, Green Kappa, so forth and so forth, Shining Angel. You get the idea. It'll let me stop a lot of things. The idea is to slow down their ability to do anything, and then you just beat them down to Dark Bribe. I prefer it. Some people might be like, oh, I'd rather 7 tools or something else, but it's like, I like Dark Bribe because I could choose either spell or trap. So you never know. You never know what they're gonna use. You don't know if they're gonna use double cyclone, 11 catastrophe, so you don't know. So I'd rather go with Dark Bribe because them drawing is not a big deal. Because if they draw an artifact monster, they have to set it for it to be useful, right? Lights Imprisoning Mirror. Obviously a lot of y'all have this in your sideboard or main or whatever. That would be useful. Those who play fairy decks, y'all probably got Archlord Christia, since she's now at 3. It can go crazy. That would be one way of dealing with it. Vanity's Emptiness for those who have it. It's another way of dealing with them. Of course, it's you gotta protect Vanity's Emptiness, of course, from being destroyed by like double cyclone and Malevolent Catastrophe and stuff like that. Obviously, a good way of doing it is with Stardust Spark Dragon. Use him to protect Vanity's Emptiness from being destroyed by Malevolent Catastrophe, and then boom, your opponent can't really do much of anything because he can't special. And if he can't special the artifact monsters, he can't get their effects. Yaksha. If you're running a spirit deck, Yaksha is a good monster because of his effect of not destroying but bouncing the back row to your opponent's hand. So the fact that you're constantly bouncing it to his hand, limits what they can do. Especially if you just so happen to know which ones are artifacts and he sends Malevolent Catastrophe. You summon Yaksha, bounce Malevolent Catastrophe to his hand and just keep attacking. He's going to be really mad. He's going to be annoyed because he can't get the trap activated. It's not chainable. You have to declare an attack for it to activate, so that will cause him a problem. That's why I don't really play Malevolent Catastrophe as much. When I started building the artifact deck, I put it in because it would be a generic way of getting their effects off. And I know a lot of people would do it, but personally, I don't like it because it's not chainable. I'd rather use chainable cards. So, Georgian Spiritus and Fossil Dyna, pretty much the same concept. Vanity's Emptiness and Christia, the whole preventing the special summoning, so that way they can't go off doing most of their tricks. Black Rose. All right. Sometimes I forgot, I don't have Lightning B here, but mainly it's like you want to activate their effects. You want to cause the artifacts to get their effects off. You know what I mean? So something like Black Rose or Heavy Storm. This Storm is not legal right now, but hypothetically, if you have a way like Wing Beat a Giant Dragon or something, you Wing Beat, pop all the back row, right? Get rid of anything that could have been of a threat, then the artifact monsters go off. Unless they have Agus, which is this one. Unless they have Agus, you'll pretty much be able to like Lightning B or something, you know what I mean? Or Dark Hole and get rid of their monsters. But if they're playing the Christia build or something like that might be a slight flaw. Because you might have to deal with the fact that they could just drop Christia. So you don't know. I've seen an artifact deck that had Christia, and I was poning, and then you drop Christia, and it's like fuck, and then I lost. because Christia made a difference. Because I couldn't special summon, I couldn't use my Battle Fade or anything, so I wasn't able to make a comeback. I was testing out a deck. I don't even remember what deck I was testing, but yep, Christia made a difference. Like, oh shit, Christia an artifact. Oh man. So Christia can be used against artifacts, but it also can be used in artifacts, just like the light rays can be used in artifacts. What else? But you know, just the ability to, like, instead of trying to hold back your MSTs and stuff like that, not pop back roll, just pop it. Mainly you want to pop during opponent's turn, but if you can't pop during opponent's turn and you got stuff like Night Beam and stuff like that, and it only works on your turn, then just go for it. Just start getting rid of whatever you can, because most of the effects only really apply to what's on the field. So if you destroy their monster destroyer, their moral attack, well, there's not going to be a monster on your side of the field for them to destroy, because you just all you did was play a spell. So it's not that big of a deal. At least you got rid of, or what is it called? You made them basically, you wasted their monster destroying effect, and then you start summoning your monsters and start getting rid of theirs. Stardust, not that different from Assault Mode. The idea is to prevent them from being able to destroy their back row. So the more Stardust you have, the more control you have, because the more stuff you can negate, so you can slow down their ability to destroy their own back row, and you can just attack. Ophion, just because of the whole level 5 and higher thing, so it's not that different from Christie on them. Black Ship of Corn. There's tons more cards. I'm not going to go through every single card in the game that could be used against artifacts. Just pointing out some that are, you know, pretty generic that you might already have or might want to start playing, just because they're good cards in general. But also, this is something to keep in mind. It's like, hey, you go up against an artifact deck, you got Fossil Dino. You might want to use it wisely. Don't let it go to waste, because it might actually win you the duel. Same thing with Black Ship of Corn. You know what I mean? Don't just go first turn Black Ship of Corn, deck Debbie, and then, you know, expect to win. You might realize that you might have needed, you know, Black Ship of Corn later during the duel, because most of the monsters most of the artifact monsters, you see this one has 1600 attack, this one has 2000, this one has 14, 21, 15, 12, and 23. Oh wait, that's the same monster. You get the idea. So basically Labris is the only one that cannot be Black Ship of Corn unless you make Black Ship of Corn stronger. So this is a good, like, main phase 2 combo, you know, idea. Like you attack like you have 2 monsters you attack, or you have a couple monsters you attack, and you put him, you know, Malevolent Catastrophes, summons his moral attack, start popping some of your monsters, and then if you still have 2 level 4s on the field, then you go main phase 2, overlay, make Black Ship of Corn. Because I actually did this, which is why I'm even pointing out the card. It's a good thing to do, because I actually did this. I did this in a Spirit deck. So, you know, he brought out, I think it was this one, he brought this one out. I think it was with the trap. He brought it out with the trap of the artifacts. Since obviously my monsters weren't strong enough to run him over, I just went into main phase 2, made Black Ship of Corn, send it to the graveyard, dealt him 1000 damage, and that, you know, and of course that mattered. That extra that damage mattered, and also the fact of preventing him from having a monster on his side of the field also mattered. And this is, you know, how to beat the artifact deck.